Hello and welcome back to Mr. English Lab. My name is Emma, and I'm here to guide you on your journey to clear, confident, and natural English. If you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss a lesson. Your support truly helps this channel grow. Alright, take a deep breath, relax, and let's begin today's session. It was a quiet Tuesday morning, the kind of morning when the world feels soft and half asleep, and people move a little slower than usual. The sun was just waking up, painting the sky a light and peaceful orange, and the air outside was cool and fresh, almost like it was whispering, "Take a deep breath, everything is okay." But inside a small apartment, in a quiet neighborhood, a young man named Daniel was not feeling okay at all. Instead, he was sitting on the edge of his bed, staring at the floor, feeling heavy, tired, and unsure about the day ahead. This is Mr. English Lab, and today you will follow Daniel's story, a simple, everyday story about how one ordinary person discovers the power of positive thinking. You will hear his thoughts, his feelings, his mistakes, his fears, and his small but important changes. As you listen, you will also practice English naturally. You will hear simple words, clear sentences, and a slow rhythm that helps you understand and speak better English. So take a slow breath, relax your shoulders, and join me on this journey. Now, let's go back to Daniel. The alarm clock rang at 6:30 a.m. The sound was sharp, like a tiny hammer hitting a tiny metal bell again and again. Daniel heard it, but he didn't move. He just kept looking at the floor. He felt tired even though he had slept for 7 hours. He felt like the day was already too heavy for him, even before he stood up. Maybe you know this feeling too, when your mind is full of worry before the day even begins. Finally, after one long minute, he whispered to himself, "Another day, let's get it over with." His voice was low, and there was no energy in it. It was the voice of someone who believed the day would not be good, even before he tried. He stood up slowly and walked to the bathroom. The mirror showed a young man with messy dark hair, sleepy eyes, and a little frown between his eyebrows. He didn't look angry. He didn't look sad. He just looked tired. Tired from many days of thinking the same unhappy thoughts. As he brushed his teeth, he kept thinking, "Nothing good ever happens to me. I work hard, but everything feels the same. Maybe today will be just another boring day. Maybe something bad will happen again. It always does." These thoughts were quiet, but they were strong. They sat in his mind like heavy stones. He finished getting ready, put on a simple blue shirt, dark jeans, and a gray jacket, and made a quick cup of coffee. While he poured the hot coffee into a mug, the smell filled the kitchen, warm, rich, comforting, but Daniel didn't pay attention. He was lost in his thoughts again. What if I make a mistake at work today? What if my boss gets angry? What if I say something wrong? He wondered. I always mess things up. The words "I always" repeated inside his head like a broken record. Maybe you know this feeling too. When your mind tells you negative stories over and over again, stories that you start believing, even when they are not true. Daniel drank a small sip of coffee and put the mug down. His phone buzzed. It was a message from his friend, Maya. She was always cheerful in the morning, always full of energy, always ready to send him a funny meme or a short, "Good morning, sunshine" message. But not today. Today the message said something different. "Hey Daniel, are you okay? I noticed you were quiet yesterday." Daniel stared at the message for a long time. He didn't want to worry her, but he also didn't want to lie. Still, he typed, "I'm fine. Just tired." He added a little smile emoji, but he didn't feel like smiling. He put his phone in his pocket, grabbed his bag, and stepped outside. The morning air was cool, and a gentle breeze touched his face. The sky was bright now, but Daniel didn't notice. His thoughts were too loud. He walked to the bus stop slowly, almost dragging his feet. The street was peaceful. A few people walked by, a mother with her child, a man walking his dog, an old lady watering her plants, but Daniel didn't see them. He was trapped in his own mind. As he arrived at the bus stop, the bus was already pulling up. It made a long hissing sound as the doors opened. Daniel stepped inside, found a seat near the window, and sat down. He looked outside, but he didn't really look. He was thinking. Why is my life like this? Why do I always feel behind? Why can't I be happier? Why can't I think like other people? The bus moved slowly through the city. Cars passed by. People crossed the street. Children laughed on their way to school. But inside Daniel's chest, there was no laughter. Only a small feeling of fear. He reached his workplace, a small office building with gray walls and a tiny coffee shop on the side. Normally, he would stop for another cup of coffee, but today he walked straight in. "Good morning," his coworker, Sarah, said cheerfully. "Morning," Daniel replied. His voice was flat, almost empty. His boss walked by and said, "Daniel, I might need your help on a new project today." Daniel felt his stomach twist. A new project? He thought. Oh no. What if I can't do it? What if I'm not good enough? He nodded politely and said, "Of course." But inside, he was already scared. He sat at his desk and opened his laptop. The screen glowed brightly, but Daniel's eyes felt heavy. He tried to work, but his mind kept telling him negative things. "You're too slow. You're not smart enough. You're going to mess up. You always fail." These thoughts were not true, but they felt true, and that made them powerful. Time passed slowly. After 2 hours, Daniel felt exhausted. Not because of the work, but because of his own thoughts. So he stood up and walked to the small balcony outside the office. The balcony looked over a busy street. Cars honked. People rushed to work. Birds sat on the wires above, singing happily, not caring about the traffic noise below. Daniel took a deep breath and leaned against the railing. And then something unexpected happened. He heard a voice behind him. A gentle voice. A familiar voice. "Hey, Daniel," the voice said. "Rough morning." He turned around. It was his coworker, Emma. She was holding a cup of tea and wearing a soft yellow sweater that made her look like a little piece of sunshine in the gray office building. She had kind eyes, the kind of eyes that make you feel safe. Daniel didn't want to bother anyone with his problems, so he said, "I'm just tired. Nothing special." Emma looked at him for a moment, and then she said softly, "You look like you're carrying a heavy backpack, but you're not actually wearing one." Daniel blinked. "What do you mean?" he asked. She smiled. "I mean your thoughts look heavy today." He didn't know what to say. He felt surprised. No one ever noticed his thoughts before. People always asked about his work, his plans, his tasks, but not his thoughts. Emma took a small sip of her tea and said, "You know, I used to have mornings like yours. Days when everything felt dark, even when the sun was shining. Days when I believed the whole world was against me. Days when I felt like every step was difficult." Daniel looked at her. "Really? You?" he asked. She laughed softly. "Yes, me. You think I'm always positive, right? But I wasn't. Not before." She pointed at her head. "Everything started changing in here." Daniel waited. He wasn't sure what she meant. Emma continued, "I learned something simple, but powerful. Your mind is like a radio. If you tune it to a sad station, you will hear sad music all day. But if you change the station, you will hear something different. Something lighter." Daniel listened closely. No one had ever explained thoughts like that before. She said, "You think your day is bad because it is bad. But maybe your day feels bad because your thoughts start bad." Daniel felt a small shift inside his chest, a tiny warm light, maybe hope. He asked quietly, "How do you change the station?" Emma smiled gently. "One thought at a time." Before Daniel could ask more, her phone buzzed, and she had to return to work. She waved at him and said, "Remember, the radio in your mind is yours. You choose the station." Then she walked back inside. Daniel stayed on the balcony for a long moment, thinking about her words. "A radio in my mind," he whispered. "I can choose the station?" It felt strange. It felt new. But it also felt possible. He looked down at the busy street again. The cars, the people, the sounds. Everything looked the same, but he felt a little different. He took another deep breath, a slower one this time. Then he said softly, maybe I can try." That was the moment, a small moment, an ordinary moment, when something inside Daniel began to change. A tiny seed of positive thinking was planted. And even though seeds start small, they can grow into something strong. He didn't know it yet. But this morning, this simple Tuesday morning, would change everything. And this is where our journey begins, a journey into the power of positive thinking, through the simple, everyday life of Daniel, a young man learning to choose better thoughts, one small moment at a time. Daniel walked back inside the office, but this time something felt a little different. The lights were the same, the desks were the same, the soft hum of computers was the same, but inside Daniel's chest there was a tiny new feeling. A warm feeling. A curious feeling. It was small, like a quiet whisper, but it was there. Maybe his day could be different. Maybe his thoughts could change. Maybe he didn't have to feel so heavy. He sat down at his desk again and opened his laptop. The screen looked brighter than before, but maybe it wasn't the screen. Maybe it was him. He remembered Emma's words clearly, almost like she was standing next to him again. "The radio in your mind is yours. You choose the station." He repeated the words slowly in his mind, almost tasting them. "You choose the station." He looked at his keyboard and took a long, soft breath. "Okay," he whispered. "Let me try." He closed his eyes for a moment. The office around him faded. The sounds became softer. And he said, quietly, inside his mind, "Today might be okay." That was it. Just one small thought. Not loud. Not dramatic. Not strong. Just simple. And do you know what happened? Nothing magical, nothing huge, but something small. His shoulders relaxed a little, his stomach felt a little lighter, his breathing softened. It was like someone opened a small window inside his mind and let a little fresh air come in. He opened his eyes again and looked at his computer screen. The project he had to work on was still there, the long list of tasks was still there, but now, instead of thinking, "I will mess this up," he thought, "I can try. I can do one thing at a time." And that small sentence felt like a tiny step forward. He clicked the first task on the list. It was a simple thing, checking numbers in a spreadsheet. Normally he would think, "This is too much," or "I'm going to make a mistake," or "I'm not good at this." But he decided, just for this moment, to change the station. He said quietly, "I will do my best." And do you know what happened? His mind felt calmer. His hands moved more steadily. The numbers didn't scare him. The work didn't feel heavy. He said again, "I can do this." And then he started working. Minutes passed. Then 20. Then 30. Daniel didn't even notice the time. He was focused. Calm. Present. After an hour, he finished the first part of the project. And something amazing happened. He smiled. Not a big smile. Just a small one. A simple one. But it was real. He leaned back in his chair and whispered, "I did it. I actually did it." It was not a huge achievement in the world, but it was huge for him, because he did it without fear, without heavy thoughts, without that dark cloud that usually followed him around. He felt proud. And that feeling of pride was like a small flame starting to grow. But then something even more interesting happened. His boss, Mr. Turner, walked by. Now, Mr. Turner was a serious man. Not mean, not angry, just serious. He spoke with a low voice and moved quickly like he was always thinking about 10 things at the same time. He stopped next to Daniel and said, "How's the project going?" Usually this question made Daniel freeze. His heart would beat fast. His mind would fill with negative thoughts. But not today. Today he had a little light inside him, a little confidence. So he turned to his boss and said, "It's going well. I've finished the first part." Mr. Turner looked surprised. Just a little. His eyebrows rose. "Good. Keep going," he said. And then he walked away. Daniel sat there for a moment, amazed. That small moment, that small calm answer, felt like a victory. He whispered, "Wow, this feels different." He wasn't scared, he wasn't shaking, he wasn't imagining 100 bad things. He was just, okay, maybe this is what positive thinking feels like. Not loud, not huge, not fake. Just small, gentle, peaceful. He took a sip of water, relaxed for a moment, and then something else happened. His phone buzzed. It was a message from Maya, his friend. "Are you sure you're okay? You sounded sad in your text." Daniel looked at the message. This time, he didn't feel the need to hide. He didn't feel embarrassed. He didn't feel weak. Instead, he typed, "I had a hard morning, but I'm trying something new. I'm trying to think in a better way." He hesitated for a second, then added, "It's helping." Maya replied almost immediately, "That's amazing. I'm proud of you." Daniel stared at those words, "I'm proud of you." He felt a warm feeling spread through his chest, like someone gently placed a blanket around his shoulders. He smiled again, a little bigger this time. He put his phone down and looked around the office. The space felt brighter. The day felt lighter. His thoughts felt kinder. He whispered, "Maybe today can be a good day." The second part of the project was waiting. This part was a little harder. It required focus. It required thinking. And normally, this is when Daniel would get anxious. But today he said, "One step at a time." And he started working again. After a while, he felt someone standing next to him. He looked up and saw Emma. She had her friendly smile again, the warm one that made him feel safe. "How's the radio in your mind today?" she asked. Daniel laughed softly. A real laugh. "I think I changed the station," he said. Emma clapped her hands lightly. "That's great. How do you feel?" Daniel thought about it. "Lighter," he said. "A little happier. And calmer." Emma nodded. "That's how it starts," she said. "Small thoughts. Small changes. But they grow." Daniel asked, "Did it help you too? When you first tried it?" Emma's face softened. "Yes," she said. "It helped me a lot. I used to wake up every day thinking everything would go wrong. But then I learned a simple rule." "What rule?" Daniel asked. She leaned in and said, "Your first thought of the day is like a seed. If it's a bad seed, it grows into a bad day. But if it's a good seed, it grows into a good day." Daniel looked at her with wide eyes. "A seed," he repeated. He liked that idea. It made sense. It felt real. Emma continued, "You planted a good seed today, Daniel. And look, it's already growing." Daniel looked down at his hands. Yes, she was right. He felt different. But then a tiny worry whispered in his mind. What if I can't keep this up? What if I go back to my old ways of thinking? Emma saw the worry in his eyes before he even said anything. "You don't have to be perfect," she said gently. "Positive thinking is not about being happy all the time. It's about choosing one better thought, again and again, whenever you can." Daniel felt relief wash over him. "Thank you," he said quietly. Emma touched his shoulder lightly. "You're doing great." "Really," she said. Then she went back to her desk. Daniel sat still for a moment. He felt peaceful. He felt understood. And he felt motivated. He returned to his work, doing it step by step, thought by thought. Hours passed like this. Calm. Focused. Light. When lunchtime arrived, Daniel packed his small lunch bag and walked to the park near the office. The sun was warm now, and the trees were full of bright green leaves that moved gently in the wind. Children played on the grass. Birds chirped happily. People walked together, laughing, talking, enjoying the day. Daniel sat on a bench and opened his sandwich. Nothing special, just cheese and vegetables, but today it tasted better. Maybe because his mind was calmer. Maybe because food tastes better when you're not stressed. He looked around and noticed something important. For the first time in many days, he was actually here, not lost in his thoughts, not trapped in worry, not drowning in fear, just here, present. He took a deep breath and said, "Today is a good day." He smiled again. 3 smiles in one day, that was new. But the day was not over. Something else was going to happen. Something small, but powerful. Something that would take his journey one step further. And that moment was coming soon. Very soon. But before we go there, take a moment with me. Take a soft, easy breath. Let your shoulders relax. Let your mind slow down. Because this story is not only about Daniel. It is about you, about your thoughts, your mornings, your fears, your small seeds. The afternoon sun was warm and bright when Daniel walked back into the office after lunch. His steps felt lighter than they usually did, almost as if someone had quietly lifted a small weight from his shoulders. He felt calm, peaceful, balanced. He wasn't running away from his thoughts. He wasn't fighting them. He wasn't drowning in them. Instead, he was choosing them. He sat at his desk, opened his laptop again, and whispered, "Let's continue." His voice was steady, clear, and confident, a completely different sound from the tired voice that came out of him that morning. He worked for a while, maybe 20 minutes, maybe 30, and for the first time in many days, he felt something like joy. Not big joy. Not loud joy. Just a quiet joy that wrapped around him gently. But life is interesting. It never stays smooth forever, and on that peaceful afternoon, something happened, something small, but strong enough to test the new thoughts Daniel was trying so hard to grow. At around 2:40 p.m., when the office was quiet and everyone was focused, Daniel heard a voice behind him. "Daniel, can you come to my office for a moment?" It was Mr. Turner. Daniel froze. Just hearing his boss's voice made his heart beat faster. He felt that old wave of fear rise inside his chest, the fear that always told him, "You're in trouble," even when nothing was wrong. He swallowed and stood up slowly. His palms felt warm, his breathing changed. He walked toward the office, one step at a time, trying to stay calm. His mind whispered, "Maybe something is wrong. Maybe you didn't like your work. Maybe you made a mistake." The radio in his mind was changing stations again, but this time, he remembered. He stopped in the hallway. He closed his eyes for 2 seconds, and he said softly inside his mind, "No, not today. I choose a better thought." He took a slow breath and whispered, "Maybe it's something simple. Maybe he just needs to talk. Maybe everything is okay." He felt the wave of fear calm down, just a little, not all the way, but enough for him to move again. He knocked on the door. "Come in," Mr. Turner said. Daniel stepped inside. The room was bright, organized, and quiet. Mr. Turner was sitting at his desk, looking at a document. He looked serious, as always. "Sit, please," he said. Daniel sat down carefully. Mr. Turner looked up and said, "I checked the work you did this morning." Daniel's heart jumped. Here it comes, he thought. The criticism, the disappointment, the problem. But then something unexpected happened. "It was good," Mr. Turner said. Daniel blinked. "Good," he repeated. "Yes," his boss said. "Very clear and accurate. You stayed focused. Nicely done." Daniel felt something warm move through his whole body. He wasn't expecting this. He wasn't ready. He didn't know what to say. Oh, thank you, he said quietly. Mr. Turner nodded. I'm giving you the second part of the project as well. I think you can handle it. Daniel looked at him, surprised. Me? Yes, Mr. Turner said simply. You've been improving. Daniel felt a small shock of happiness. Improving him today? He smiled a small, shy smile and said, I'll do my best. I know you will, his boss said. Those 4 words, I know you will, felt like warm sunlight on Daniel's chest. He stood up, thanked his boss again, and left the office. As soon as he closed the door behind him, he stopped in the hallway, leaned gently against the wall, and whispered. He said, I'm improving. He repeated it again, softer. I'm improving. He felt proud, he felt strong, and he felt grateful. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like a problem, he didn't feel like a mistake, he didn't feel like a burden. He felt seen, he felt recognized, he felt capable. He walked back to his desk with a lighter step. When he sat down, Emma looked over from her computer and smiled. You're glowing, she said. Daniel laughed softly. My boss said I did good work. Emma grinned. See? Your new station is working. Daniel nodded, feeling confident. I think so too. But the day wasn't done with him yet, because just when he started feeling strong, something new came, something that tested him even more deeply than the boss's office. At 3:15 p.m., while Daniel was working on the second part of the project, something popped up on his screen. A notification. A small red icon. It said, Error file corrupted. Daniel's heart dropped. What? No, 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 he whispered. He clicked it again. Same message. Error. The file wouldn't open. And this wasn't just any file. It was the document he had been working on for the past 2 hours, the document his boss trusted him with. His hands grew cold, his chest tightened. Oh no. I messed up. I ruined it, he whispered. The old thoughts came back fast. You're not good enough. You always fail. You're going to get in trouble. You can't do anything right. They came like a storm, loud and strong. For a moment, Daniel felt like he was drowning again. Everything inside his mind became dark and heavy. He held his head with his hands. He felt panic rise inside him. But then, from somewhere deep inside, a new voice appeared. A small voice. A steady voice. A voice that didn't exist yesterday. It said, wait. Breathe. Choose the station. And Daniel listened. He took a slow breath. He sat back. He placed his hands on his desk. He whispered, don't panic. You can fix this. He repeated, one thought at a time. He said it again. One thought at a time. And slowly, the panic softened. The storm grew quieter. The darkness lifted a little. He clicked the file again, still broken. So he tried something else. He opened the backup folder. He checked the recovery files. For a moment, nothing worked. Then, suddenly, he found a version saved from 20 minutes earlier. Not perfect, not complete, but not lost. He whispered, thank you. He didn't know who he was thanking. The computer maybe, the universe maybe, himself maybe. He opened the file and started fixing it. And he said softly, you did not fail. You fixed it. You stayed calm. He worked for another hour, fully focused, not stressed, not scared. And when he finished, the project looked even better than before. At 5 p.m., he sent it to his boss with a simple message. Completed. Please review when you can. He leaned back and let out a long breath. It had been a challenging afternoon. A scary moment. A test. But he passed it, not because he was perfect, not because the day was perfect, but because he chose his thoughts. He chose calm over fear. He chose clarity over panic. He chose the right station. As he packed his bag to go home, Emma walked by again. Tough moment earlier, she asked gently. Daniel nodded. Yes, but I handled it. Emma smiled. I knew you could. He looked at her and said something he had never said before. "I'm learning." Emma placed a hand over her heart and said, "That's all you need to do." They walked out of the office together, down the stairs, and into the cool evening air. The sky was soft and blue, and the world felt calm. Daniel took a slow breath, looked up at the sky, and whispered. Today was a good day. But his journey wasn't over, not even close, because tonight, after he went home, something powerful would happen, something that would change not just his day, but his life. The evening air was cool and gentle when Daniel stepped out of the office building. The sky above him was turning soft pink and purple, the kind of colors that make the world feel peaceful, quiet, and full of meaning. People were walking home. Cars moved slowly through the streets. The city lights were starting to wake up, glowing softly one by one. Daniel stood still for a moment in front of the building. He didn't take out his phone. He didn't rush to the bus stop. He didn't think about work or problems or mistakes. He just breathed. One calm breath, then another, then another. His entire day passed through his mind like a short movie. The heavy morning. Emma's words, the small positive thoughts, the praise from his boss, the panic, the recovery, the pride, the quiet joy. He realized something important. This was the first day in a long time when he didn't feel like the world was too heavy for him. He whispered gently to himself, "I did it. I made it through today." No dramatic voice. And oh, strong emotion, just a simple truth. He walked down the street toward the bus stop. His steps were slow and easy. The breeze played with his hair. The city sounds felt softer than usual. When he reached the bus stop, he sat on the bench and looked at the sky again. It was darker now, but beautiful. A little child walked by holding her father's hand. She looked at Daniel with a big smile, the innocent, bright, happy smile only children have. Daniel smiled back. Somehow, that tiny interaction filled him with even more warmth. When the bus arrived, he climbed in and sat by the window. He rested his head gently against the glass as the city moved past him. Streetlights, shops, people, dogs, families, laughter, life was happening everywhere. But the most important thing happening tonight was not outside. It was inside Daniel's mind. As the bus moved slowly toward his neighborhood, he whispered, "I didn't let fear control me today." He said it again, a little louder. "I didn't let fear control me." And with that simple sentence, Daniel felt something open inside him, like a small door to a new way of living. He reached to stop, got off the bus, and walked down the quiet street toward his apartment. The houses were silent. Warm lights glowed behind windows. The smell of dinner came from somewhere, maybe pasta, maybe soup, something comforting. When he reached his door, he paused for a moment. He could feel that tonight, something needed to happen. A reflection. A conversation with himself. A moment of honesty. He opened the door, stepped inside, and placed his bag on the table. The apartment felt calm, almost softer than usual. He turned on a small lamp, made himself a cup of tea, and sat at the small wooden table in the corner. The warm steam rose from the cup. The room was quiet, and Daniel finally allowed himself to think, slowly, gently, clearly. He took one sip of tea and said softly, "Today taught me something." And then he waited. He didn't rush. He didn't push. He let the thoughts rise naturally. He said, "When you start your day with fear, you see fear everywhere. And when you start your day with hope, you find hope everywhere." He closed his eyes for a moment. Emma's voice echoed inside his mind. "Your first thought of the day is a seed." Daniel whispered, "A seed." He opened his eyes and looked around his room. There was a small plant on the windowsill, a tiny green plant he bought months ago but barely noticed anymore. The leaves were bright and healthy. He got up, walked toward the plant, and touched the leaves gently. "This plant grew from a tiny seed," he said quietly. And then the realization came slow, beautiful, powerful. My thoughts are seeds too. He sat back at the table, holding the warm cup with both hands. He felt his heart soften. He felt his mind open. All day long he had been changing his thoughts, one small thought at a time. And those little thoughts, those little seeds, had changed the whole shape of his day. He whispered, "Maybe positive thinking is not magic. Maybe it's a habit." He thought about the morning, how heavy it was, how dark it felt. And he realized something important. "I wasn't tired from life," he said. "I was tired from my thoughts." That sentence hit him in a deep place. It was true, completely true. His thoughts had tired him, his thoughts had scared him, his thoughts had made his days feel heavy. But today, when he changed his thoughts, his day changed too. He said it slowly. "One thought changed my day." He looked around his quiet apartment and felt a warm wave of peace wash over him. He wasn't scared. He wasn't confused. He wasn't drowning. He was learning. He was growing. He was understanding himself. His phone buzzed quietly on the table. He picked it up. It was Maya. "How was your day?" she wrote. Daniel looked at the message for a long time. Normally, he would answer with something quick and simple. "Fine." "Okay." Same as always. But tonight felt different. Tonight he wanted to be honest. He typed, "It was a good day. I tried something new. Positive thinking. And it helped." He hesitated, then added, "I think today was the first day in a long time when I felt okay. Really okay." Maya replied, "That makes me so happy. I knew you could do it." Daniel felt a smile forming on his face, not a shy smile this time, not a small one. A real one. He put the phone down and leaned back in his chair. For a long time, he just sat there, thinking, breathing, appreciating the small but powerful changes inside him. But then, something new arrived in his mind, a thought he wasn't expecting. A memory. A simple memory. A memory of himself as a child. Little Daniel, sitting at a school desk, holding a pencil, afraid to answer a question because he thought he would be wrong. Afraid to raise his hand. Afraid to speak. He remembered the teacher saying, "It's okay to try." But he never believed it. Until today. Today he had tried. Today he had spoken. Today he had trusted himself. Today he had chosen better thoughts. He whispered, "I wish I could tell little Daniel that everything will be okay." A soft warmth spread through his chest, like kindness, like healing. He took another sip of tea. There was still something he didn't fully understand. Something important. Something he could feel, but not explain. So he sat in silence and waited for the thought to take shape. And slowly, slowly, it did. He whispered, "Positive thinking doesn't change what happens in your day, it changes how you meet your day." He felt a chill run down his arms. A good chill. A powerful one. He said it again. Positive thinking doesn't change the world outside, it changes the world inside. He let those words sit in the air of his quiet apartment. Outside, a car passed by softly. A dog barked in the distance. The city hummed gently. And Daniel felt complete, not perfect, not finished, just complete. He stood up, washed his cup, turned off the kitchen light, and walked to his bedroom. He sat on the edge of his bed, the same place where he had sat that morning, tired and hopeless, and he smiled. He whispered to himself, "Tomorrow, my first thought will be a good seed." He lay down, pulled the blanket over him, and closed his eyes. But before sleep came, one more thought appeared, a thought so gentle and so true that it made his heart warm like sunlight. He whispered, "I can change my life, one thought at a time." And with that beautiful thought, Daniel fell asleep, calm, peaceful, hopeful. But his journey is far from over. Because tomorrow morning, when he opens his eyes, a new challenge will come. A real test, the test that decides whether today was just luck or the beginning of something bigger. The next morning began before the sun was even awake. The sky outside Daniel's window was still dark, quiet, and peaceful. The world felt soft and half asleep, like a giant blanket of silence covering the city. Daniel opened his eyes slowly. For a moment, he didn't remember anything. Not the good day he had yesterday, not the positive thoughts, not the praise from his boss, not the warm tea in the evening, not the quiet understanding he had found inside himself. He just felt normal, maybe even a little tired. He stared at the ceiling, blinking slowly. His body felt heavy, his mind felt slow. And then, like a small candle lighting up in a dark room, he remembered Emma's words, "The first thought is a seed." His own reflection, "One thought changed my day." And suddenly, he realized this was the moment that mattered, the moment to choose. He whispered softly, his voice low and sleepy, "My first thought today will be a good one." He took a deep breath. Then, slowly, with care, he said, "Today can be a good day." The words felt warm, soft, gentle. Not strong like a shout, not powerful like a big speech, but true. And that was enough. He sat up in bed and stretched his arms. His muscles felt a little stiff, but his mind felt clearer than usual. As if the small candle he lit inside his thoughts was spreading light through the room. He stood up, walked to the bathroom, and looked at himself in the mirror. Same face, same hair, same tired eyes. But the expression was different. There was a small softness in the corners of his mouth, a calmness in his eyes, a new energy. He brushed his teeth, washed his face, and whispered one more thought. "I choose the right station." He liked the way that sounded. Simple, clear, honest. He made his morning coffee. The smell filled the kitchen, warm, dark, comforting. Yesterday, he didn't notice it. Today, he did. He took a small sip and whispered, "Thank you for this day." He wasn't thanking anyone specific. He was just appreciating the moment, the warmth, the quiet, the fresh start. But then, suddenly, his phone buzzed. A message. He picked it up, expecting something simple. But when he opened it, his heart dropped. The message said, "Urgent. Project deadline moved to today. We need the report finished by 12 p.m. It was from his boss. "Today," Daniel whispered. His hand shook a little. The warm feeling in his chest went cold. This was not part of his plan. This was not the easy, calm morning he imagined. He felt fear coming back fast, like a shadow returning to a room after the light goes out. Old thoughts rushed in. What if I can't finish it? What if I make a mistake? What if I embarrass myself? What if they think I'm not good enough? His breathing changed, his chest tightened. He held the phone tightly, almost too tightly. And for a moment, just a moment, he felt like he was falling back into yesterday's old patterns. The heavy ones, the dark ones, the fearful ones. But then, something unusual happened, something new. One small, quiet voice inside him whispered, "Breathe, Daniel. Choose the thought." He closed his eyes, held the phone against his chest, breathed in slowly, and whispered, "Not today. I will not panic today." His heart was still beating fast, but his mind was trying to stay steady. He repeated slower, "I can handle this. One step at a time. I am capable." He felt the fear soften, not disappear, but soften. And he realized something important. Positive thinking doesn't stop challenges from coming. It helps you face them with strength. He finished his coffee, got ready, and walked out the door, not calm, not perfect, but ready. The bus ride was different today, not light and peaceful like yesterday evening, not heavy and dark like the morning before. Somewhere in between. Daniel looked out the window and whispered simple reminders. "I can do this. I will stay calm. I will try." When he arrived at work, the office felt tense. People were typing fast, talking quickly, walking with serious faces. It was a busy, stressful morning for everyone. Daniel sat at his desk and opened the project file. So many numbers, so many details, so much pressure. He felt fear again. But he also felt something else. Strength. He whispered. I'm not alone. I have new tools now. He worked carefully, slowly, thoughtfully. Every time his mind tried to step into fear, he gently pulled it back. When fear said, "You can't finish this," he answered, "I can." When doubt said, "You'll mess up," he answered, "I'll check my work." When panic said, "You don't have time," he answered, "I'll focus." One thing at a time. And slowly, very slowly, he entered a rhythm, a calm, steady rhythm, the same rhythm he found yesterday. At 10 a.m., Emma walked by and whispered, "You okay?" Daniel nodded. It's a big morning, but I'm trying. Emma smiled proudly. And you're doing great. Yes. I almost panicked. But I remembered what you said yesterday about choosing the station. Emma's smile grew even warmer. And did it help? Daniel sat down at the small round table and said, "It didn't make the work easier, but it made me calmer." Emma took a sip of tea, nodded thoughtfully, and said, "Exactly. Positive thinking isn't about changing the world. It's about changing your mind so you can face the world." Daniel listened carefully, letting her words sink in. After a quiet moment, he said, "I always thought positive thinking meant pretending everything is perfect. You know, fake smiles, fake happiness, ignoring problems." Emma shook her head softly. No, that's not positive thinking. That's pretending. Positive thinking is something very different." Daniel leaned forward a little. "Then what is it exactly?" Emma placed her tea on the table and said, "Positive thinking is choosing the thought that helps you, not the thought that hurts you." Daniel repeated her words slowly. "The thought that helps me." "Yes," Emma said. "Life gives us problems. Stress, fear, mistakes. That's normal. But we can choose how we talk to ourselves during those moments." She pointed gently at her head and said, "Your mind listens to you, Daniel. Every word you say inside here becomes part of your day." Her voice was soft and clear, almost like a teacher explaining something important to a small child, with kindness, not judgment. Daniel asked, "So, when I thought I can handle this, that was positive thinking?" Emma nodded. "Yes, because it helped you do the work. It didn't lie to you. It didn't say, 'This is easy.' It didn't say, 'Everything is perfect.' It just said, 'You can try.'" Daniel looked down at his hands. He remembered that moment, how scared he felt, how his heart raced, how the fear jumped into his thoughts so fast. And he remembered how he stopped it, how he breathed, how he said, "Not today," how he chose the better thought. Emma watched his face and said gently, "You did something powerful today, Daniel. You didn't let fear control your day." Daniel felt warmth spreading across his chest. "I think I'm beginning to understand," he said. Emma smiled. "Good. Because positive thinking is simple, but not easy." Daniel raised his head. "Why not easy?" Emma sat down across from him and said, "Because the negative station is louder." Daniel nodded slowly. He understood instantly. Negativity is fast, strong, heavy, familiar. It arrives before you even know it. It jumps into your mind without permission. It feels real even when it isn't. It feels true even when it's not. Daniel said, "It's the station I always listen to." Emma replied, "Most people do. It's the default station. The automatic station." Daniel took a slow breath. "So how do I make the positive station stronger?" Emma smiled. "Practice." Daniel laughed softly. "Practice?" "Yes," she said. "Just like learning English. Just like learning a new skill. The more you repeat positive thoughts, the more natural they become. She leaned closer and continued. Today, when your boss sent that message, you could have panicked. But you tried something different. You breathed. You chose your thought. You stayed calm. That is practice. Daniel nodded, feeling something inside him grow, something like hope, something like clarity. But then, Emma said something that surprised him. And practice happens not only in big moments, but in small moments too. Small moments? Daniel asked. Yes, she said. Very small. For example, when you wake up. When you drink your coffee. When you walk to the bus. When something small annoys you. Those are the real moments where habits grow. Daniel thought deeply. This morning, his first thought, his coffee, his bus ride, his breath. Yes, those were small moments. But they shaped the entire morning. Emma continued. And there's something else. What? Daniel asked. You must be kind to yourself when you fail. Daniel blinked. Fail? Emma nodded. Everyone fails. Even people who practice positive thinking for years. They still have bad mornings. They still panic sometimes. They still get scared. The difference is, they don't punish themselves for it. She rested her hands on the table and said, if you choose a negative thought by accident, it's okay. You don't need to fight yourself. You don't need to be angry. You just say, oops. Let me try again. Daniel smiled softly. Like learning a new language. Emma laughed. Exactly. Daniel looked out the window for a moment. So, yesterday was the beginning. Today was a test. And tomorrow. I keep practicing. Emma nodded proudly. Yes. One thought at a time. Daniel felt something rise in his chest. A gentle calm. A warm truth. A new strength. But then, suddenly, Emma's expression changed. She looked thoughtful. A little serious. A little emotional. She said, Daniel, can I tell you something personal? Daniel looked at her gently. Of course. Emma looked down for a moment, as if she was choosing her words carefully. Then she said, I learned positive thinking because I needed it. I wasn't always like this. I had a very difficult year once. A year when everything went wrong. When I lost something important. When I felt alone. When my thoughts were dark every day. Daniel felt a small shock. He never imagined Emma felt anything like that. She continued. One day, someone told me, your thoughts are not facts. And that sentence saved me. Daniel whispered, your thoughts are not facts. Yes, Emma said. They're just thoughts. Sometimes helpful, sometimes not. And we get to choose which ones we listen to. Daniel felt something deep inside him open, like understanding, compassion, and connection all at once. He said quietly, thank you for telling me. Emma smiled gently. I shared it because I want you to know something important. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're just learning, just like I did. Daniel swallowed softly. His eyes felt warm. He whispered, and I'm grateful you're helping me. Emma nodded. And I'm proud that you're helping yourself. They both sat in a warm silence, not awkward, not uncomfortable, just peaceful, just real. Finally, Daniel stood up and said, I think I'm ready to go home. Emma smiled. Take your new thoughts with you. Daniel laughed softly. I will. He walked back to his desk, packed his things, and left the office. Outside, the sky was open and blue, the air was fresh, the world felt lighter. But most importantly, Daniel felt lighter. As he walked toward the bus stop, he whispered, my thoughts are not facts. I choose the ones that help me. I choose the good seed. I choose the right station. I choose me. And slowly, beautifully, gently, Daniel began to change. When you're ready to continue Daniel's journey in Section 7, just say, next. You said, next. ChatGPT said, here comes Section 7, another long, slow, simple English daily life chapter of Daniel's journey with positive thinking. This part takes place in the evening and leads him toward a deeper emotional shift. Daniel stepped off the bus and felt the cool evening air touch his skin. The sky above him was slowly turning orange and pink, like soft paint spreading across the clouds. The sun was lowering itself gently behind the buildings, and the trees beside the road moved quietly in the wind. For a moment, Daniel stopped and just looked around. The world felt slower, softer, wider. Maybe nothing outside had changed. Maybe everything was exactly the same as any normal day. But Daniel was different, and because he was different, the world looked different. He took a slow breath and whispered, "I'm learning, one day at a time." His voice was calm, almost peaceful. He began walking toward his apartment, one step after another, not rushing, not hurrying. His mind was moving like the wind, gentle, smooth, steady. Halfway down the street, he passed a small park. There was a wooden bench under a tall tree. Normally, he didn't stop there. Normally, he just walked home without thinking. But today, something inside him said, "Sit for a moment." So he did. He sat on the bench, placed his bag beside him, and let the world move around him. He watched people walk by, some talking on their phones, some laughing, some looking tired after work, some completely lost in their own thoughts. And he wondered quietly, how many of them are fighting battles inside their minds, just like I am? It was a soft question, but it opened a big feeling in his chest. He thought about Emma, how she seemed so strong, so calm, so positive, and yet she had struggles too, hidden ones, quiet ones. He realized, you never know what someone is carrying. The thought made him kinder, gentler, more connected to the world around him. He watched a small boy running across the park, chasing a yellow ball. The boy laughed loudly, a happy, free sound that made Daniel smile. Children didn't worry about thoughts. Children didn't pick stations. Children just lived. Daniel whispered, "I want to feel like that sometimes. Not all the time, not every second, just sometimes." The wind moved through the leaves above him. The branches shook gently, making a soft whispering sound. It felt like the world was talking to him. After a minute, Daniel pulled out his phone and opened a note app. He typed slowly. Day 2, I managed a hard moment. I stayed calm. I chose my thought. I didn't give up. I'm proud. He looked at the words for a long time. Then he added, I want to continue. He locked his phone, stood up, and walked the rest of the way home. When he reached his apartment, he unlocked the door and stepped inside. The air inside the room was quiet and warm, almost like it had been waiting for him. He placed his bag on the floor, took off his shoes, and walked to the window. It was big, the kind of window that showed the whole street below. People walking, cars moving, the sky changing color. Daniel pulled the curtains open wider and stood there, watching the world from his small, safe space. He whispered, I choose a good thought, again. But then something unusual happened. His mind didn't give him a good thought. It didn't give him a bad one either. It gave him a question. A deep question. Who do I want to become if I keep thinking like this? Daniel felt the question inside him, heavy and important. Who? A calmer version of himself? A stronger version? A kinder one? A more confident one? A version who trusts himself? A version who feels brave enough to try? A version who believes he can change? Daniel didn't know the full answer, but he knew the beginning of the answer. He whispered, I want to be someone who doesn't give up on himself. His voice broke slightly on the last word, himself. Because for many years, he did give up on himself, not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly. Little moments, small decisions, tiny fears, soft doubts. They all added up. Now, for the first time in a long time, he didn't want to give up. He wanted to keep going. He wanted to grow. He wanted to understand his mind. He wanted to build something inside him that felt strong and real. He stayed at the window for a long time. The sky turned purple, then dark blue, then almost black. Streetlights flickered on one by one. Cars became slower, people walked less, shadows grew longer. But Daniel didn't move. His mind was working in a slow, gentle rhythm, the kind of rhythm that leads to important discoveries. And then, another memory arrived. He remembered a moment from years ago. A moment he never thought about anymore. He was 16. He had studied hard for a math exam. He wanted to do well. He wanted his teacher to be proud. He wanted to feel good about himself. But the exam was difficult, very difficult. He panicked. He froze. His mind went dark. He couldn't think. He failed the exam. After class, he overheard two boys whisper, "He's not smart. He gets scared. He can't handle hard things." He didn't tell anyone, not his parents, not his friends, not his teacher. The words stayed with him. For years. He didn't notice it, but those words grew like roots inside him, quiet roots, deep roots. Roots that said, "You can't handle pressure. You will fail again. You're not built for difficult things." He felt a deep sadness rise inside him as he remembered this. And for a moment, just a moment, he felt like the 16-year-old boy again. Afraid, small, lost. But now, something was different. He wasn't 16 anymore. He wasn't lost. He wasn't weak. Today, he faced a difficult situation, and he didn't panic. He stayed calm. He finished the work. He proved something important. He whispered to his 16-year-old self, "You were wrong. You can handle pressure. You did today." His chest felt warm, his eyes felt watery, his throat felt tight. He sat down on the edge of his bed and covered his face with his hands. Not crying, not breaking, just feeling. Feeling the truth, feeling the change, feeling the power of knowing he wasn't the same scared boy anymore. He whispered, "I'm stronger than I thought." The words felt like medicine, like healing, like peace. After a long silence, he lay down on the bed and stared at the ceiling. The room was dark now, but he didn't turn on the light. He didn't need it. He felt a different kind of light inside his thoughts. Soft, warm, steady. He realized something important. Positive thinking wasn't just about work, or stress, or small moments. It was also about healing old wounds, speaking softly to the parts of him that still felt scared, replacing old lies with new truths. He whispered into the quiet room. One thought at a time. Then, one day at a time. Then, one change at a time. He smiled softly. Then he closed his eyes. Thank you so much for joining today's lesson here at Mr. English Lab. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below telling me what you want to learn next. Your support helps the channel grow and helps me create more lessons for you. Take care, keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next class.